one of the most important black organizations in the history of the United States, was born 55 years ago today. Famous for their black berets, their fists in the air, Afro hairstyles, and military formations, the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense was founded by then college students Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton in October of 1966. October 15th, in fact, today. Their efficiency in grassroots organizing and their firm stance on black power, liberation, and revolution inspired black people across the globe. And at the same time, it made them a target for the FBI. My next guest is a historian who specializes in the Black Panther history, and he's written multiple books on the topic, such as Black Politics, White Power, Civil Rights, Black Power, and the Black Panthers in New Haven. He's also the co-editor of the beautifully photographed photo essay collection, The Black Panthers, Portraits from an Unfinished Revolution. Joining me now is Dr. Yohuru Williams, professor of history and the founding director of Racial Justice Initiative at the University of St. Thomas. Welcome to the show, my brother. Always good to see you, Dr. Williams. Let's talk about today, first of all. When we think about the 55th anniversary of the founding of the Panthers, what is the lasting legacy? What's the lingering relevance of the movement?
I think it exists in three places, Mark. I think the first is if we look at the issues that are facing Black America today, we talk about housing, education, access to places of public accommodation, and Jim Crow justice. The Panthers were talking about those issues in 1966. We only need to look at their 10-point program. Point number 4 that dealt with decent housing. Point number 5 that dealt with education. Point number 7, call for immediate end to police brutality. That resonates so powerfully in our contemporary moment because we're still challenging and dealing with those issues today. We also want to celebrate the independent spirit of getting information out to the community. The Black Panther Party Community News Service. We know that legacy in our history goes way back to the journalism of people like Ida B. Wells. And extends in our contemporary moment, Mark. I got to call you out in the work that you do, both the journalism and activism. But the Panthers in their moment were using the intercommunal news service to share with the community and share with the world what was happening in Black America and trying to use that as an organizing tool. And then last but not least, when we think about the legacy of the Panthers, it is this spirit of activism, the importance of going out and challenging inequality, speaking truth to power that we see manifest today in movements like, and organizations like Black Lives Matter, certainly in the activism of African Americans in a wide array of issues in the United States and beyond.
So let's move to the 1960s, because, I think one of the things that people really need to understand is the context, the conditions that produced the Black Panthers. What are the conditions that created the need for this movement and the particular ways that the Panthers, particularly Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton at the beginning, sort of decided to establish the party?
Well, the Black Panther Party emerges in a moment where the United States is still dealing with the issue of civil rights and Jim Crow segregation in the South. It is past the Civil Rights Act of 1964, past the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and yet in the urban North, in the West, you have groups like the Black Panthers that are raising the issues that the civil rights gains have not been across the board uniform in producing real change for African Americans. Issues like police brutality, access to decent housing. We just talked about in your last segment, you're talking about water quality, environmental justice. These are issues that extend back to that moment that the Panthers were raising in a very direct way. And you have these two college students, Huey Newton, Bobby Seale, both products of the Great Migration, whose families had come from Oak Grove, Louisiana, and Texas, respectively, who wind up in California and are raising the question, we were on the other side of the plantation. If this is the other side of the plantation and it's not better, we need to stand and fight and push for an agenda that raises issues about quality of life, about birthright citizenship, about Black power that are relevant to the African American community. Last but not least, it's emerging in a moment where, in the aftermath of the Watts riot in 1965, you have this frustration with the civil rights movement, the slow pace of civil rights, this demand for dignity and equality on the part of African Americans that you see articulated in the fiery oratory of people like Malcolm X, certainly Robert F. Williams. Later, that'll be manifest in the works of people like Angela Davis. But in 1966, really emerged from the page of the Black Panther Party 10-point program penned by Huey Newton and Bobby Seale.
Let's talk about the Panthers in popular culture, because we regularly see the image of the Black Panther Party on TV, in movies. We see them in everyday life, and I think we have an understanding of some of the iconography. We know the panther, we know the beret, we know that, but there's also a way that we might miss the boat. How has the kind of lingering memory, the pop culture representation of the Panthers sort of missed the mark? How do we misremember them?
It's a great question because there's the symbolism of the Panthers, the berets, the black leather jackets, the guns, and there's the substance of the party. People forget, for example, that in 1968, the Panthers put down the gun and really pushed their community programs, which included the Breakfast for Children program, which became the impetus for the federal government's Head Start program. The work of people like Alondra Nelson, who look at the Black Panther Party's community health programs, their free health clinics, which were meeting the needs of African Americans and Latinos in cities across the country. And the fact that the Black Panther Party was much more than what is projected in the kind of iconography that you spoke of. Recently, we've had movies like Judas and the Black Messiah that have done a better job of exposing people to the substance of things beyond the political rhetoric that the Panthers are associated with. This wasn't just about challenging police brutality. This was about dealing with the social, economic, and political problems that plague the African American community, and doing so in a way that pledged community members, that pledged the party without government assistance to meeting the needs of their community. You see that in the free health clinic. You see that in the Breakfast for Children program. They weren't waiting for the government to respond. They were responding and trying to improve conditions themselves. And I think that's what we really should celebrate in this moment about the Panthers. And as we look back and think about the legacy of the organization, what we should focus on, this spirit of independent activism, the idea that, you know, we're not dependent on and don't have to wait for the federal government to act. We should push the federal government, the state and local government to act, but ultimately the people, power to the people, that's their slogan, have it in their power to make change.
One of the lingering messages that we get from many of the rank and file Black Panthers, particularly women in the party, is the extraordinary sexism, the misogyny, the patriarchy. It would be irresponsible for us not to mention that. Can you, before we go, can you talk a little bit about some of the gender challenges of the Black Panther Party?
It's a great question because the Black Panther Party reflects the gender inequality in that moment, like all American institutions in that moment. And so the homophobia, the sexism that we associate with the Black Panthers is certainly not unique to the Panthers, but it's something that you see the Panther organization struggling with in its growing pains. You see that in the leadership, however, of women within the party, people like Erica Huggins, later on people like Elaine Brown, who rise to leadership and are challenging sexism at the same time they're trying to advance a Black agenda that speaks to the needs of a united Black community. I think it's important in our contemporary moment as we think about Black Lives Matter, which is so synonymous with powerful women and women, female activism, and recognize, as Charles Payne has written in his book, I've Got the Light of Freedom, men may lead organizations, but the reality is that women organize. And it was a strong organizing influence of Black women in the Black Panther Party that really is responsible for its success in all of the communities where the breakfast program, the political education classes, the free health clinic helped to transform the lives of people. And so we want to, acknowledge, again, the shortcomings of the organization and yet celebrate the leadership and activism of those women who are a significant part of this movement.
Absolutely. Yohuru Williams, thank you so much for joining us on Black News Tonight. Again, we commemorate the 55th anniversary of the founding of the Black Panther Party, one of the most important organizations that America has ever produced. Yohuru Williams, of course, a brilliant scholar who's given us incredible insight into it.